Hey guys, and welcome to another video here on our channel, The Guide. I'm Benjamin, also known as Taz, and in this video we present you a technique how you can shoot your penalties well placed into the corners on a consistent basis. This technique won't help you to score every penalty 100% of the time, because there's always a goalkeeper in goal, and if he decides for the right corner, there's a chance that he's going to save it. But with this technique you will increase your chances of scoring tremendously, because with this technique you're able to shoot your penalties well placed into the corners. We are going to start this video with the problems that you might encounter when you're taking penalties at the moment, explain the theory why this technique is working, and then obviously the technique itself. And it does take some training to get used to this technique because it's a lot about timing. But before we start, I would like to make you aware that we have a special promotion for our coaching offers for a short period of time. With the code COACHING25 you get 25% off. As you might know, we offer individual coaching with pro, top 100 and elite players. These coaches are all hand selected by us and educated to ensure that they're able to provide you helpful coaching. If you're looking for the most efficient way to improve your skills, this is a good opportunity to get started. You can find the link to our coaching website for more information in the video description, or you can click at the info box in the top right corner right now. And don't forget to use the code COACHING25 to get 25% off. Now let's come back to penalties. We want to start this video with the issues that you may encounter when taking penalties, so that you understand in which way the presented technique is going to resolve them. First, some basics on penalties. Since this here you have an indicator that you can move with the left stick. Notice that when you aim to the top corners, the indicator goes beyond the goal, so there's no boundary which prevents you from shooting next to the goal when you move your stick just to the top corners. So to aim into the top corner you would have to hold your left stick in a partial position, which is much harder to do in online games for some reason. This alone would be manageable, but as you can see, your player is giving away the direction of the indicator with the direction of his head before powering up. It goes back into the neutral position after powering up the shot, but your opponent would still know in which corner you were aiming before. So aiming before powering up isn't a good approach. Another problem is the error of your shot. When you power up, there's another white circle around the indicator which visualizes the error of your shot, meaning it can end up somewhere in this area. This error is affected by how much you power up your shot, but also how much you move the indicator after powering up. So powering up and then moving the stick from left to right to decide on the last second gets you a pretty random shot at the end. As you can see, it's not as easy to take a good penalty because you have to factor in quite a lot of different things. In a perfect world, we would try to shoot a penalty at which we decide at the latest point of time with the least error as possible without giving away the direction beforehand. And this is what our technique accomplishes. Before we show you the technique itself, we explain why it's actually working. When you take a penalty, you can only move the indicator until a certain point of time. Then the indicator freezes, because the player is actually going to take the shot. This creates a time constraint, which we then use to create a boundary for our aiming, which we usually wouldn't have with the left stick. Okay, I will admit it, this sounds quite complicated. Let's put it that way. If you start quite late to aim with the indicator, you can't move it next to the goal because there isn't enough time to get it there, since it does take some time for the indicator to travel beyond the goal. What if we start to aim exactly at the point of time which it needs to get into the corner before the indicator freezes? Well, then we would have the perfect penalty without having the hustle to actually move the left stick in a partial position, because you can just fully aim into the corner and then it freezes right there. This is what the technique, which we are going to explain in the next segment, delivers. The technique is quite simple to execute and only consists of 3 steps. The first one is powering up the shot. You press and hold the shooting button to determine the power. We recommend something between 1/3 to half of the bar. We don't want to shoot too weak, because then the shot is easier to save for the goalkeeper, but we also don't want to overhit it, since this increases the error of the shot. Important, you don't move the indicator while you're powering up the shot. The second step is the focus period. Here you only have to focus on the beginning of the 3rd step. Because this technique is 99% dependent on the right timing, you fully focus on the timing for the last step, which is aiming with the left stick. When your player sets down his non-shooting foot for the first time in his run-up, this is the timing for you to start aiming into the corner. You don't have to go for partially aiming, but instead go full on into the corner. So when you want to hit the top bins on the right side, you move your left stick to the top right corner. Now the indicator moves to the top right, and if you hit the timing right during the run up, it will freeze right at the moment when it is in the top right corner. Boom, that's it. So once again, you power up the shot and then focus on the run up of your player. As soon as he set down his non-shooting foot for the first time, you start to move the left stick for the aiming. You can also use the shooting foot as orientation. In this case, you start aiming when he starts moving his shooting foot forward in this position. With this technique you can shoot high or low, left or right, it doesn't matter. For a left-footed player this is the same, only mirrored. For this technique it comes all down to hitting the timing right when you start to move the left stick. When you start too early, the time window at which you move the indicator becomes too large. It freezes too late and you miss the goal. When you start too late, the indicator freezes somewhere inside the goal. Obviously this is much less worse because there is still a chance that you score when your opponent moves his goalkeeper to the other side. So rather start too late than too early with your aiming. If you want to increase your chance of scoring, you can also try to hit a green timed finish. For this you press the shooting button for a second time when your player is about to strike the ball. A green timed finish reduces the error. As you don't have to focus on the indicator, because its movement is only down to timing, you can fully focus on the time finishing attempt as well. Now you have to practice this over and over again to get accustomed to the timing. You can either go to the skill games at which there are some dedicated exercises on penalties, or you go into the arena, run with your player into the box and then hit right on the D-pad. Now you get a penalty in the arena for practicing purposes. With this technique you are able to shoot perfectly placed penalties without the hassle of partially moving the indicator with the left stick, and you're also not giving away the direction because you started with the aiming before powering up the shot. Basically you start aiming at the last possible moment. On the other hand, your shot doesn't get as big of an error since you move the indicator only in one direction. So this technique is the perfect balance between late decision and also having a small error in the shot. Lastly, this technique is especially useful for players that are verified and play the online qualifiers for the FIFA Global Series, as well as the people who play offline against their friends, because you actually don't need the indicator at all. When you play offline against a friend and you have the indicator turned on, he can see where you're aiming to. Good luck scoring that way. But because our aiming is only reliant on timing and not actually using the indicator to aim, we can pull off this technique without the indicator. So you can turn it off and still bang in the penalties top bins. Of course, nothing is perfect, and this also holds true for this technique. There are several limitations to it. The first one is delay. This is referred to games where there is a delay between your input and the action registered. As this technique is highly dependent on a good timing, delay is definitely an issue. Because when you start with the aiming as usual, but the indicator starts moving later because of delay, the penalty won't be as precise. There is no specific way of getting rid of delay, so this leaves some uncertainty when you use this technique. When you know that you're in a game session with delay, one way to deal with this is to adjust your timing a little bit, starting a bit earlier with the aiming step. But be cautious, if you adjust it too much, you will just miss the goal. The second issue is that even though you might shoot the perfect penalty with this technique, your opponent can still save it. This technique won't change this. If your opponent guesses the right corner, there's a chance that he is going to save it. But when you have a good execution and hit it precise and hard, there's a chance that you beat the goalkeeper anyways. So there's still a merit in going for strong penalties like that. The last limitation is about the run-up of the player. Some players have a special and unique run-up in the game. For example, Neymar, Ronaldo, Pogba or Messi. Some of these run-ups are slower, some are faster. In the end, it completely changes the timing for you when you have to start aiming. So for every player that has a special run-up and not the default one, you would have to determine and practice the timing for this special run-up. But you cannot just use the same routine as for the default run-up. In the normal game you can avoid this problem by picking a player with a normal run-up as the default penalty taker. For a penalty shootout, it's unavoidable that you have sometimes to shoot with a player that has a unique run-up. This technique requires some training to get the timing right. It helps you to consistently shoot very well placed penalties, but that doesn't mean everyone is going to get in. There is still a part that lies in the hands of the FIFA gods. That is something that you have to accept. Just try to get the most out of it on your side. And we hope that this tutorial helps you with your efforts in accomplishing that. If this is the case, we would highly appreciate a like, because this helps us a lot to keep this channel growing so that we're able to continue to provide helpful content like this. We also see that the majority of our viewers isn't subscribed to our channel. If you enjoy our videos on a regular basis, make sure to subscribe to not miss any of our upcoming videos. Check out our coaching website to get the newest offers for individual coaching with pro, top 100 and elite players to help you improve in the most efficient way. We would also like to thank our Patreon elite supporters. If you want to support our channel and also get some cool benefits, check out the link to our Patreon site in the video description. Thanks for your attention, keep a clean sheet, I'm out.